You are listening to the IndyCar Report with Elijah Poe, the latest IndyCar news, rumors, and speculation, only on the Central Indiana Sports Report. Welcome, IndyCar fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for a special edition of the IndyCar Report with Elijah Poe. Elijah joins me here in the off-season to talk about the latest news, rumors, speculation, the latest happenings in IndyCar during the offseason, and there's been plenty. But before we get to that, Elijah, I want to talk about the retirement of Marco Andretti. It's probably not a surprise to anybody that he announced his retirement this week. He hadn't really been a contender for a few years, and it's too bad because he was incredibly entertaining at Indianapolis for a decade. He never ended up winning it. Of course, had the heartbreaking loss to Sam Hornish. But there were 4 or 5 other times that he was in contention at critical moments in the race and never got the job done. He was not quite his father, not quite his grandfather, but a good racer nonetheless. And it's a shame that he didn't have more success than he did. What happened was he came along, and then the series took a huge leap in talent and kind of left Marco behind, particularly on road courses. I also want to say that Marco is one of the great gentlemen of the sport, always very giving with his time with the media and always willing to be helpful, just like his entire family. Elijah, I grew up cheering for anybody but the Andrettis in IndyCar, and then I met them, and I regretted growing up cheering for anybody but the Andrettis because they are the nicest people. Yes, they have some bravado and some arrogance, as anyone who's great would, but they are the nicest people you will ever meet, willing to help you in any way they possibly can. And that's how I wanted to start it. Welcome back, Elijah. Tell me about the latest in IndyCar news and speculation.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back and commenting on Marco as well. It is always a shame whenever we have really, you can just put it simply, an Andretti leaving anything. The name just holds so much weight in IndyCar, and like you said, he has been so dang close over the years. Regardless, I think he did retire at a perfect time. These last few 500s have been a little bit rough for him as a whole. But then again, it's always sad to see somebody with that name leave the sport. And as far as some off-track silly season news, we haven't had any major signings since VK decided to go to Juncos-Hollinger Racing. And really the only spot left for this 2026 season coming up here is going to be that number 4 car that's going to replace David Malukas at AJ Foyt Racing. And from what I've heard, Kyle Collette he raced in Indy Next last year, a very great racer. He's done 2 practices with the AJ Foyt team in that 4 car. So with the way things are trending now, I would be pretty surprised to not see him in that car. Rare these teams are going to waste 1 test on somebody they don't want in the car, let alone him having 2. I think that pretty much points signs for him being at AJ Foyt next year, and a really speedy racer, had some wins in Indy Next. And I think it'd be a good fit for AJ Foyt team that has shown some great moments here in 2025, but they are still up in the air for what they can bring in 2026.
There's still plenty of open seats, Elijah. We still have one at Rahal-Letterman. We may know who that's going to be, but it's still an open seat.
I say open seats and completely 100% open, no contracts involved or anything.
I got you. But there's still some things to be settled this offseason for sure.
Well, yeah, and I think you talk about that Rahal seat specifically with Devlin DeFrancesco. I know we both have talked about it numerous amount of times, how we would both be shocked to see him in that seat for next year. And I would really like to see Mick Schumacher in that seat. I'm not sure where negotiations are at with that. We know he tested on the road course at Indy here about 3 weeks to a month ago. But man, just what a name. To maybe even get him an IndyCar would be such a huge opportunity, not only for Mick's career as a whole, because he's been out of open wheel racing here for a couple years now. He's obviously been very competitive on the WEC side of things and endurance racing. But man, it'd be just such a great pickup for IndyCar.
We know that either Stingray Robb or Connor Daly is going to be out at Juncos-Hollinger for sure. What's the latest with that team, Elijah?
Yeah, with VK moving in, I think specifically it really squeezes out Connor Daly more than Stingray Robb.
Probably.
Stingray Robb does have another year on his contract that Connor Daly does not with Juncos-Hollinger Racing, which really hurts Connor Daly's chances. We talked about Andretti at the top on the top of this program, and with them running 4 cars at Indy, I would be shocked to see Connor not at Andretti or even back at Dreyer and Reinbold where he's raced with them before. But regardless, for Connor, I really do think he's going to have a seat at least at the 500, which it's not what he wants. I think it's not what a lot of fans want because we see his potential on ovals specifically. But us being Connor Daly fans, at least we still get to see him race in the biggest race in the world.
Yeah, I would think they'd be bidding on him. And it sure seems like with the Marco retirement, that opens a spot for Connor Daly for a one-off. But again, let's hope that that's not the case. Also, Dennis Hauger has signed with Coyne Racing. What's the other seat up to?
I'm not 100% sure. There hasn't been a lot of talks about that second seat at Coyne. I really wouldn't be surprised to see Jacob Abel back in the car. Even though he did have a rough rookie season, he's still a rookie, and his family brings a heck of a lot of funding.
He
Yeah,
comes with
yeah.
backing.
That's it. His financial backing is definitely stronger than others. And, that is sadly or beneficial. You can look at it both ways, but that is a part of IndyCar.
It
And,
is.
and
Always has been.
he's definitely got the funding, and that Del Coyne team, I think, is really going to be interesting next year, specifically for Hauger. I think we all saw in the Indy next season, he was by far the cream of the crop there. And to see him maybe take over for what VK did, obviously I don't think he's going to have some of the results VK did, but I think that's going to be a fun team, usually as it is every year. Dale Coyne Racing, even though they are not by far in the top of the sport for spending categories, man, they really do bring it every race. And what an organization that just fostering young development. And I think that's going to be a perfect spot for Hauger specifically.
Yeah, sure seems like it. Seems like that's the kind of relationship that's gone really well with Dale Coyne for a long time. Back to the time when he was a team manager, not a team owner.
Yeah. Which it'll be interesting to see how everything lines up next year. When we talk about some of the new moves, I think you automatically have to go to VK going to Juncos-Hollinger. But man, I really feel like there's going to be a ginormous spotlight on David Malukas specifically, just because stepping up into that Team Penske from AJ Foyt, that jump it's not astronomical, but for lack of better terms, it's pretty astronomical. He's dealing with a lot more pressure. With the season Penske had in 2025, we're not 100% sure what that car's even going to look like next year. They could come up and show up and still have the same bad luck that they had this year. You just never know in IndyCar, but I think he's got a lot more pressure on him than compared to Will Power, who has been moving to Andretti. I think that's going to be such a good fit for him. And we can also talk about Andretti more. They actually signed Kyle Kirkwood. They extended his contract for 2026 and beyond today.
Yeah, that's news for sure, but it's not like anybody's surprised that happened. That seemed like that was coming. So I didn't lead the podcast with it, even though that's kind of breaking news.
Well, yeah, I think, like you said, we all did know it was coming, but it still is nice to see that Andretti is committed to Kyle Kirkwood. In today's IndyCar world, a lot of teams are signing 1 to 2 year deals. So for them to put their trust in Kirkwood is definitely founded. He obviously had the results this year, was challenging Palou for a handful of races before Palou was gone, put everybody in the dust. But nevertheless, that's still going to be a good signing for Andretti. And it really feels like Andretti as a whole has dominated this offseason news cycle. Just, I think it was last week, they announced that Colton Herta would be driving for Cadillac in IMSA. So he's going back to some of his endurance racing roots, which I think would be great for Colton as well. It'll be nice to see him back in Indy for the Indy race IMSA does. And I think it'd be good for his development as well, doing IMSA and F. Man, he's going to have a busy year next year.
Elijah, with the silly season, there could be a giant monkey wrench in the whole thing, and that is we're hearing rumors that Prema might not be around next year.
Yeah, it comes with mostly funding stuff, but I think it would be just a huge shame. We saw that team with Callum Ilott and Robert Schwartzman. Obviously, everybody saw Robert Schwartzman win pole at the Indy 500. But, the latter half of the season, they had some really sneaky good strategies and multiple top tens.
Really good season for that team.
And to see them in their first year compete and might not even be in the season at all in 2026 would be a shame. But, nevertheless, those are two chartered seats that I'm sure somebody is going to buy. I know a lot of people linked Andretti maybe buying those and buying and saving Prema, but I think Michael came out and said that's definitely not going to happen on Twitter. But it would just be a shame for that organization not to make it another year in IndyCar. And as accredited as Prema is in the racing world, you just got to have backing. And in IndyCar, it can get expensive really, really quick.
It is. And I would hope that the series would do what it takes to at least allow them to survive one more year with the type of success they had last year. And then let's see where it goes from there. But it doesn't sound very hopeful that they will be back. And as you mentioned, toward the end of the year, they were sneaky good, and those drivers were sneaky good, and they might be free agents as well.
And plus, I would think, I really like where the series is at with 27 cars.
Yes.
I think it just races well on oval specifically, getting more numbers. But I especially think to the month of May, where if we only have 25 full-time cars, I want to see more than 33 cars try to qualify, because that last row shootout is some of the best action we see all year. And for there potentially not to even be a last row shootout, I just think it would be a crime. And it would just be a shame to have the month of May without a last row shootout, because that is such an intense moment for those teams, an intense moment for the fans and everybody who tunes in.
Elijah, so my stepfather watches NASCAR, and I happened to be walking by the other day and saw that they were racing. I don't think it was the main series, but in Phoenix. That track looks amazing. I think with what they've done to widen the apron, IndyCar could be fantastic there.
Well, yeah, I agree. The only thing I am a little bit worried about is I did see some photos circling around on Twitter that those Xfinity Series cars that did race there really tore up the asphalt coming out of those corners, which could be a concern for IndyCar. But at a world-class facility like Phoenix Raceway, I'd imagine those are fixed up pretty quick. And talking about NASCAR, I know we just finished the NASCAR season here last night, and I saw some fans always fighting about the playoff. And, obviously Fox being a major partner in IndyCar now, I guess, what would you think of a playoff system for IndyCar? I know my answer.
I don't like the NASCAR setup at all, but maybe a one race championship where every race winner during the season gets a shot to win some kind of title, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you can probably put the national championship, as it's known, the IndyCar championship, on one race. I think that would be probably wrong to do that. But I do think you can have some kind of playoff without doing it like NASCAR does, which is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty criminal, but I would not be surprised to see IndyCar maybe move towards a direction where, like you said, we do have something that kind of goes into that end of season awards and everything like that. Just another interesting talking point, and I'm not quite sure.
What about a 3-race championship at the end of the season? One road, one oval, one street course. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I could see that working, or I could even see 2 awards given out, where best on the ovals and then best on street and road courses.
I've been saying that for years. You need an oval champion, you need a road course champion, and an overall champion. That might encourage some teams to gamble on Connor Daly, who you're not going to get much from on the street and road courses. If he can be a contender in the oval championship, I think that's a good idea. They also need to work on a Triple Crown or a Grand Slam, 4 different types of race. You have your best street course, obviously that would be Long Beach. You have your best super speedway, of course that would be Indy. You take your best short oval. I don't know what you would want to do that. I would say Milwaukee, but their IndyCar would probably prefer something else. And then you take your best road course, and I think that's probably at Elkhart Lake, but you have your options there as well. and have some kind of grand slam like that. The extra special races, and put an extra special spotlight on them.
Yeah, that's exactly what IndyCar needs, and I really do think IndyCar and Fox are gonna create some really unique things here in the next couple of years. Some of them might work, some of them might not, but some new and unique ideas to the sport is definitely what we all need.
Also, would like to
Absolutely.
see an oval Triple Crown. That would be very cool as well.
Well, yeah, yeah, would love to see, but to do that, we're gonna need to get some more ovals, which is another little tangent we can go on as well. But we've definitely talked about that ad nauseum here.
Hey, Roger, go build some ovals. Seriously,
Yeah.
there are lots of places that would love to have one. He's got the money to do it. Go build your own ovals.
Especially when you look in the market, especially the Northeast United States, which really doesn't really have a race. They used to with
And has
Watkins
90%
Glen.
of our country's population.
Yeah, they used to with Watkins Glen, but man, you talk about a market that is just jumping at the bits to get some racing, and it's that one.
Build some
Uh,
tracks, man. There's lots of places that would love to have one. I don't understand why they're not building their own tracks and controlling their own destiny, but maybe that's in the works now that
yeah,
Roger is in charge.
yep. In the next few years, time will tell. That is for sure.
Elijah, so good catching up with you on some IndyCar. We'll talk as soon as more news breaks.
All righty, appreciate it.
Thank you so much to Elijah for joining the podcast, and thank you for listening. Please do us a huge favor, like, subscribe, follow, do all that stuff. It helps more than you know. And most importantly, please share this podcast with an IndyCar fan in your life and help spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about Central Indiana sports every single day. Thanks again, Elijah.
All right, thank you, Greg.
The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.